And there's two files, one called Mantis and one called Mantis V2. Mantis is the starting point where we'll have some movie clips spread out on the stage that we can connect together into an armature. And the Mantis V2 file is sort of just to demonstrate what a finished armature might look like animating across the stage. Something like that. And now we'll go to the Mantis file to get started. And here I see the directions to open the 1MC Mantis Bone Start movie clip in the library. So I'm going to open that. And here I have some directions of what to do. In this starting exercise, we're going to create individual armatures for each limb of this insect. We're going to create one for each arm and one for each leg, and then we'll move them into position with the transform tool. Once we create a bone armature, we'll start from where the limb kind of originates, and we'll drag it through, and then that'll kind of lock it in place, kind of like putting a thumbtack right at the where you start, so that everything will kind of rotate around it. So that's why we'll then have to use the transform tool to actually move it into the position. But sometimes it's easiest to create the bones with movie clips, kind of having everything spaced out a little bit so that you can find it's easier to connect the movie clips that way. So I'm going, and keep in mind also that usually when you're working in Flash, everything has to be on its own layer if you're animating. But with the Bones tool, everything that you connect with the Bones tool is going to be brought into a layer for that particular armature. It's going to create a layer for it. So you don't have to worry too much about separating everything on its own layers to start. In this file, I've got the head and the body locked down in the layers panel. And then everything else here is on layer 1. And each limb will become its own layer once we, but these are all individual movie clips, as you can see if you click on them, that we're going to connect. To start, I'm going to kind of zoom in on the first limb, and I'll grab my Bones tool, and I want to just start at the where I want it to rotate around. So this is like kind of a shoulder, so I'm going to start right there, click and drag. Now if you look closely at the tool as you drag, you see it has a black bone icon, which means that it's not finding another movie clip to connect to. Once it finds another movie clip, it'll turn white, meaning it's okay, it's going to create a bone. And where I want to drop that is right at the rotating point of the next movie clip. So this is kind of an elbow, and I'm going to drop it right here. I can adjust this later with the transform tool, so don't worry too much if you don't get it exactly right. And I've created my first bone. Now to create the next one, I'm going to click back on that bone again and drag to the next limb. And you'll see again it turns white when it finds the next movie clip. So there we have our first armature, and if I go to my black arrow, I can test it out. I can drag, and I can see, and you can see that the very starting point is sort of like it's nailed down there. But if I want to, I can grab my transform tool, and I'm going to shift and click on all three parts of it to move it all at once into where I want it positioned. So now I'll just move on to the next movie clip and do exactly the same thing. There's number 2. I'm going to just click off, and here's the first leg. Second leg. Third leg. These are all just the same. Need to kind of down a little bit there. And the fourth leg. These are all just multiple instances of the same movie clips. So now I'm just going to move those into position using the transform tool. I think I want them, and I can also kind of rotate the whole set to kind of space them out a little bit. I can also keep in mind that if you want to make a fine, I'm skewing, don't want to do that. Oh, this one's all kind of tweaked out now. Let's see, how do I fix that? Again, transform tool. Shift. And put those up there. Did this one get a little skewed? It's okay. And the last leg. And the last arm. So now all of these limbs are separate armatures, and he's going to be locked in position, his head's going to be locked in position, but his arms and legs can move. Now I could also connect it all into one skeleton. That's all different ways you can do it. If I look in my layers panel up here, I can see there's nothing on layer 1. Layer 1 has been emptied, so I can just delete layer 1. And I've got arm. I can rename them. And so I've got a total of 6 layers with an armature on each layer. If I make a mistake and connect the bone to the wrong movie clip or something, it's totally, all I have to do is hit the delete key. I can delete a bone and I can redraw it. So here, and also if I don't get it exactly right, I can still fine-tune it. For instance, if I did my bone something like this, I could fix it by using the transform tool and moving the rotation point to match where I actually want the bone to line up. So hopefully, where did my bone tool go? Sometimes it can be a bit glitchy, so I'm going to try that again. And now it looks like it's in the right spot. A couple other things about the constraining and speed and all that. If I click on a bone, the properties panel changes to reflect all the specifications I can put in for the bone. And first off is a little bit about navigation. When you have a lot of bones in an object, it can make it difficult to select bones to customize. So they have this navigation at the top. For instance, I have the forearm selected. If I click the up arrow, I can go up to the parent bone. So where you start an armature is the parent, and it'll be siblings and well actually children, and if you have bones at the same level, that would be sibling bones to the same parent bone, and you can navigate through using those arrows. Another important thing to know about is the speed. If you want to kind of semi-constrain a joint, make it a stiffer joint, more difficult to move, it gives priority to the other bones to move first, you want to lower the speed of the joint. So for instance, if I click on this one and turn down the speed, make it 20 for instance, and then you can see that it still moves, but it's not quite as ready to move. If I turn that all the way down, see what happens. We can see it really doesn't want to move at all now. I'm going to set that back up. And I can disable it altogether, like if I didn't want it to move, instead of turning the speed down to 0. And constraining, like I talked about before. Now, X and Y translation, you probably won't use with a skeleton type of, like a human or something. There's not too many bones that really translate. You might have like a slight amount of X translation with like a head if someone was doing the dance, the Egyptian dance. So it's where a bone kind of slides left and right or up and down. And that's about it for the bones panel. And so let's talk about actually creating an animation with the armature. So it's pretty simple to almost instantly create an animation. I'm going to just put out some frames. I'll hit my select the frames out to 30 and hit F5 to add frames out to there, extend the timeline. Now if I select this arm here, I can see what layer it's on. If I want to make a looping animation and I want it to be a smooth loop, kind of like a walk or something, what I'll want to do is I'll want to immediately insert a pose out at frame 30, or where my animation ends. So I'll just right click on that frame and go to insert pose. Now this is very similar to a keyframe, basically the same thing, but for an armature. So now if I just, whoops, I don't want to move it here. I want to go into the middle of the timeline, or the middle of my animation cycle, and put a different pose in there. Maybe we'll make them wave or something, I don't know. And I don't actually have to insert a pose. If I just move it, it'll insert a pose for me. So if I test this scene, I'm going to Command Option Return. You can see it's kind of a smooth cycle because it has the same start and end pose. So I'm going to go ahead and play around with animating some of these other legs and limbs. So I've done a little bit of work to create a basic walk cycle with my mantis. This is what it looks like. He just has an arm swing and the legs pretty much just step back and forth. So that I created in the same movie clip. Then I dropped that movie clip into a new movie clip called Mantis Walking. If I open that up, you can see it's basically just a same 40 frame walk cycle, but I just gave him a little bit of a bounce so that he kind of moves up and down as he walks. Then I took that movie clip, Mantis walking, and dropped it into a new movie clip called Mantis stage walk, where he's just going to walk across the stage. So now I'm ready to drop him into a background, and I have a movie clip in here called background MC. If I open that up, I've got everything set up for me ready to just drop him up on top on this layer called Mantis walking. I'm going to zoom out a little bit. So I'm going to take that Mantis stage walk and drop him over here. I'll probably have to, yeah, I guess that's about the right size. If I test that, what it looks like. Oh, what I need to do is take this background MC now and put it onto the stage. So I'll drop that in here. The other thing I could have done is test just the scene. Give that a try. So now we just need to add the shadow layer to him. We move him up just a little bit. Oops. So okay, so I need to go into my background MC to edit him. Move him up just a little bit. And so he's up there, and then the shadow is going to go on this layer. So what I want to do is I want to copy him and then go to this layer and do a paste in place, edit, paste in place. I'll just make this layer invisible, the top one invisible for a second. I'll lock others. And so what I want to do to create a shadow is, first of all, give this a tint. And second, I'm going to give it a blur in the filters. I think probably 20, 25 pixels. Not that many. There we go. And then I also want to skew it, so I'll use my transform tool, hold down the option key, and skew it back. And I also have this layer all set up to mask it. So let me give that a try. See what we have. Just need to take them a little bit further across in the Mantis walking across stage, the Mantis stage walk. Extend that out a little bit and move them over a bit more. See if that's enough. And there we go. As an alternative to animating an armature in Flash, you may want your user to be able to interact with the character in your Flash file, in your Shockwave Flash file, or your SWIFT. In this file, Mantis Runtime, I've gone into the movie clip called 2MC Mantis Armature, and I've deleted the animation, and so I only have one frame. Instead of selecting the armature itself, I've selected the frame, which actually, instead of selecting a single bone, selects the entire armature. And I've changed the options from author time to runtime. If I go back to, I've also dropped this movie clip into scene 1. And if I test the movie now, instead of animating across, I'm able to, as a user, click and drag on the character and reposition him just as I would if I was animating him in Flash.